Are you ready today to be afraid? I have horror stories for you today, and both of them became reality. Our stories today were presented to us by Sarah, so we loved each other. The sauce of terror and fear, come now and let me scare you. Subscribe to the channel, a story that we start today in one form. She says, I hope my story will be an example to everyone who hears it, and that the most important thing is peace of mind even if you are living poorly. How long is this? Her words at the beginning of the story say, your family and I lived in an old house, a small one-story folk house. She is the eldest of her brothers and sisters, and she says, I always hoped that we would come out of the old folk house. Why are people better than they are? I was grumbling when my mother told me clean the house, or when I see my father sitting around fixing anything in the house that is broken. I used to tell them that whatever they do is equal. This house will be a popular and old house. You will see worth more, and my father was suspicious that there was something wrong with the Pledge of Allegiance, and he was not satisfied with him taking the house. There is something wrong with him, but me, my mother and my sisters put pressure on him, and forced him to buy a house. We have passed the first week of the best that we can be happy in the new house, and far away this week, the story of the end of my family has begun. Yes, as I have heard, the story of the end of my family has begun. It happened to us that every day at 2 o'clock in the morning, it was as if we could hear the voices of children playing on the third floor. Sometimes we hear the sound of the windows being opened and getting drunk, and at one time my sister and I were closing, and we heard a sound. It sounded like it was someone opened a window. We were sitting down, and we heard a sound above us. It was a sound that someone opened a window, and the sound was, and it was clear. So my sister got up and opened the W. And suddenly I heard the voice of the sanctity of the bass of her son's club, whose name is Khaled. My mother stood up and said, who is above? I heard you. And when she calls the police, she says, suddenly I heard a sound of laughter, and one says to her, come on. And then I heard the sound of a door. Repeat hard, and continue. My mother will say that her heart is strong and she was not afraid. We went up and saw her, and she fell ill, and after that she got sick and developed Alzheimer's disease, even though she was little. But early Alzheimer's disease has not known us, and every time we see it, it strikes us, and sometimes it strikes itself, and we have reached out to it. We even tied her hands to the bed so that she wouldn't hurt her soul, and with the passage of time we heard my brother's Yasin, and he was with herself, sitting in his spirit and talking to herself, and then laughing out loud. When his condition deteriorated, he became worse. We decided we take it from a sheikh. Can't sell it to anyone. My past and doing the same as in our old house, our small folk house, and when I was sure that peace of mind, for what we were in it is better than today, is a big house. Our second story tells us one Aisha in the Sultanate of Oman, and the stories that happened to them in their home. So you say we live in an old house in the Sultanate of Oman, and I am the youngest of my brothers and sisters. Our house was very large and became a paradise. It is divided into sections, and at times sometimes my older sisters were going, and there was a lot of noise in our house as they were leaving the house, and they got stuck in a corner. Shira, so they were shocked by a real fear. There was a veil over her head. It was strange, its shape was strange, and it was cloaked, and there was no rail under its body. Was it alive, or was it a worm? That is, its shape was an ugly feast and a strange feast. Once my sister and I were awake, and one of my sisters was not wit.
Closeness of my eyes, I felt fingers on my hands. It was long, and the nails that had it were long, and this person stroked my hair and pulled my waist. My hair quickly sat down and screamed, and from my scream everyone sat on it. In my opinion, we didn't see anyone. There was no one else in the room but us, and once in a while I slept. The one who is the cupboard is the wardrobe, and someone was looking inside them. I heard the sound of a drawer opening, the sound of objects moving, the sound of the cupboard door. I am sure of the sound. When I got up and turned on the light and the shutters were moving from sometimes in the direction of the council in our house, we used to hear the voices of small children whose voice we heard as if they were playing, and sometimes we would hear a voice while we were at a wedding, a singing voice. Almost 13 years ago, witchcraft gave her as a gift or an offering to the jinn, and they conspired against the girl who used to work in a shop or supermarket. And did the poor thing suddenly change her condition, and after she recovered and became Zina, she talked about what she had gone through and saw her saying that she saw widely spread among us, and a girl was known who used to become a victim of witchcraft. And they herself with a large number of people, and they varied between adults and children, all of whom were chained. There was a large number of magicians with them, and I mentioned the name of the place where they were. The name of the place is the Rustok Mountains where he was. In this place there are roots of elders who gather people and cook for them. They say that there was a feast in which people would disappear, and we thought that they had died. And at that time, but unfortunately, the people who disappeared were victims of these sorcerers, so the girl's family caught up with me. Before they did not take it, the sorcerers and go and Yaba, one of the sheikhs, recited it in
mother and my sister, and they were sitting with them and they started reading. And all they say about her is she calms down and they just keep quiet, and she screams and says they are everywhere they are. There is even one of them behind the door, and when we ask her, we tell her what you see, and she says things to us. Wade is sitting. Wade sees strange things, things that fly and things that crawl, so we ask her to tell her that Zane is sitting. They try to tell Chi, she says it's important to her what they talk, she says things to them like animals, but their eyes are all point, and whenever you sit and stop reading the Quran while they are sitting, they draw near to me without stopping. We recited a great deal. We can, so she says, we take turns reading it. I read, and when we are tired, my sister completes the place. Jay continue with it and neglect us in this state until dawn, and continue even though the matter is mine in the morning. We are able to stop the reading of the Quran to her. Every time we stop she screams and jeers. We called her daughter, and the daughter told us that her mother was fine. And there was nothing wrong with her. Her brother is religious and he tried to read to her, but unfortunately the first time I heard a voice she left her place and went to the balcony and opened it and threatened us. So tell me, my brother was afraid for her, and he stopped so that they could help us treat her. When we arrived, a doctor works in a hospital. A young, religious young man, Farana ala Billy, and he used to utter his desires, and the woman was shaking, and he was sitting. In the beginning, she was resisting everything she was resisting, and he was giving her treatment, after which she returned to normal, and she responded to him and said that everything disappeared, but I know, and as soon as the effect of the treatment is gone, the disease will return again, so he asked her to keep it in her body, and this treatment benefited her for a short time, and then Daha brought back the things she was seeing, and as soon as the doctor there is a natural presence, and sometimes even before he arrives, the doctor has become an adornment. They knew that he was going to deliver the night. In her, it is magic, and we must know its source so that we can cure her of it, so she says one day, she used to sit with her, so every time she would turn to me and turn her head a second time, and then back again. A second she looked at me in a strange way, she looked at me right, her breaths were not normal, so I told her, my aunt, look. What do you see? Where did she sit this way? Then she got up and told us that she was dying and sitting. And so I continued reciting the Quran to her until she calmed down, and she continued in this manner until she returned home. A second time, and as soon as she reached her house, her condition worsened, and she showed them every time they looked at her and they intimidated her, and she used to say that she would see them naked, unclothed, and they said that one of the times while she was sitting you pray and you go out. Once upon a time, Shayla was afraid of a little boy holding her in his arms, and she said to her, if you cut off your breasts, I will go. The boy's condition, and she says, I broke my belt out of fear. We have not heard in a single day that a woman who happened to her sought the help of a well-known sheik, and as soon as he saw her, my father said to her, tell me, what is the matter between you and the people to settle Sahar's son? Tidya had or Tharmado had, she groaned and said, I am afraid of the issue of inheriting the house, and there is a great possibility that one witch of her sisters did this magic suit for her in order to repel her from. The sheik said to him, if they read to you from today to start, it would be of no use. Resist them and ask them for forgiveness, and let them stop the work that you do, and do not see it. Things will not disappear. Paradise from you, this is a feast of fear, and none of us wishes to be in one of the stories, and do not enter places of the old or dirty places where you are not present to yourselves, no human will touch you, and I am a mother. Make sure that you are now sitting watching the video, and there are 3 of them who are now sitting watching it with you. On the 3rd, let's drink some refreshing water after a short story. It's refreshing and delicious. I picture ride, stay tight. Now that we've come to the end of our story today, I hope I gave you a way to wonder. If you are seeing me for the first time, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you are the 4th, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Like and activate the notification bell so that I can deliver everything to you first, Paul, and in the end I tell you I love you and promise good luck.